So this week's episode on the Carnage perspective was a great question from Tom Boyle. Just read it out quickly. So Nathan, what do you think the future of fight sports in Australia looks like? Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, MMA, etc. You've fought around the world, and what does Australia need to do to grow the industry further? It's a good question, and unfortunately I feel a little bit sad a little bit at the moment for Australian Muay Thai. When I was fighting at my peak, you know, we had big shows like Explosion, back in the day, the Boonshoe Cups. There was a bit more happening. Obviously, Evolution was so big. In Queensland, it is. Obviously, there's big shows in Australia. You know, there was people like Tarek Solak, you know, love him or hate him, but he did some big shows and made some big noise for Australian kickboxing. I want to speak about boxing and MMA. We all know that MMA is growing. It's huge. UFC is coming here in November. So they're always going to be a big fish. You know, they've got the TV, they've got the media, they've got the money, they've got the publicity. So it's all happening. MMA itself will always be strong and it's driven. So I want to talk more on, obviously, on my own sport, which is Muay Thai kickboxing, and how do we need to keep it growing. People ask that question to me quite a lot. You know, how is the future? What's happening with the sport? I feel the sport has come to a bit of a stagnation. There isn't really any big super names anymore. Obviously, you know, John Wayne Parr is almost at the end of his career. I've, you know, currently now at this stage finished fighting. May fight again, but who knows? But at this stage, I'm not fighting. And I'm not saying that we're the only, you know, people in this country that are big names, but for the sport to be successful, you need a name. Firstly, we need something. We need characters. We need to build profiles. You know, that's how things sell. If you go back to the UFC, it sells on the profile. It sells on the. Think about the main event boxing. You know, they do the, you know, the 24/7 leading into the fight. Pacquiao versus Mayweather. It's a build up. It's a segment. They're building characters, and characters are what we need to build to the mass public. So unfortunately, the problem with Australian kickboxing and Muay Thai is there's no TV anymore. Fox Sports aren't doing it anymore. There's a couple of little small things like Fuel TV and whatnot, but it's not quite big enough. So how do we grow the sport from here? Difficult, but not impossible. What we need to do is we need to keep together as one. Okay? Now, that's a hard thing to do when we're fighting each other. And I was not really a person of, you know, believing in Muay Thai as such as a sport and it's all like, you know, we're a team or a sport. I was there for individual warriors' way and my own self-growth. But in saying that, it is a sport. It's a platform that we all, you know, work towards and grow within. So instead of all this nitpicking and this and this and this and this and this, everyone needs to come together. If we want the sport to keep going, we need to all come together as one. The beautiful, like NRF, you know, like you speak about NRF, you know, building profiles and letting everyone know what's available. Not mismatching fights, not one-sided fights, you know, where it's going to make people have. Like, think about boxing now. You know, people don't even really want to watch boxing much anymore because it's a mismatched fights, this. That's why UFC has taken over. Not only because of the money they put in there for the marketing, but for the fact that they must fight who they get told to fight. So it's creating real fights. Glory itself, you know, Glory again I had a couple of opportunities to fight on Glory, some big shows. Even with a company like that who has millions and millions of dollars to invest in that, it's going well, but it's not going brilliantly. Again, fights create fights and publicity and all that kind of business around characters. So what we need to do is we need to, as a country, one is keep promoting good fights. And I want to speak out individually to the athlete now, from my own perspective, of course, throughout my career, is fighting is one aspect of the sport. It's who you are as a person. How do you speak? How do you dress? Are you a role model? You know, all those things is what makes the end result the biggest thing. If you want people to follow you, you don't want just the fight fans to follow you. You want the public to follow you. So what do you have to be to become a public person? You have to be more than just a fighter. Dress well, speak well, act well, be disciplined, be respectful, be humble. Fight hard, yes. Destroy people in the ring, yes. Knock people out. Be savage when the bell rings and be a humble person afterwards. This then will develop into building more fans for the person. And when you build more fans for the person, meaning the individual, you're building more fans for the sport. And therefore the sport can organically grow more and more this way. So Australian kickboxing, Australian Muay Thai will never die. But it needs to obviously be picked up by individual people. So if everyone chips in and does their bit, the sport will always rock. From the trainers, dressing well, being respectful, from the fighters doing the same thing, from the promoters being honourable and doing the same thing, and everyone doing their job correctly, then we're in the game. Thank you for Carnage Perspective. Talk to you next week.